soldier has many secondaries, and just like the scout, they can be separated into two categories, the shotguns and the gimmicks. Now, I could have broken this into three categories, being the shotguns, banners, and boots, but then I'd be skipping the bison. So two categories. For the sake of the video, anything that is not a shotgun is considered a gimmick. My reasoning for this is that the default weapon for soldier in the secondary slot is a shotgun, and anything that isn't that is deviating from the main idea of a secondary, and thus is a gimmick. Now that the start is out of the way, let's get into the main part of the video. So to start out, we have the normal shotgun, the good old reliable. The meta, at least last time I left it, was in a battle on shotguns and gunboats. The way I viewed it, shotgun was for pocket and sixes, and gunboats for roamer, and sometimes in Highlander. One thing I found myself constantly having, however, when using the shotgun, is low ammo, or clip size in this case. And since there are 6 clips in a shot, it takes a hot second to reload it all one at a time. I will hope you all know how this weapon performs damage-wise, and be it a shotgun in a video game, you can assume that it deals high damage up close and next to nothing at long range. Since rockets are a projectile and hard to aim when you're being harassed up close by a scout, the shotgun is always a good thing to be able to pull out, and is useful in scenarios where you are caught off guard. Next on the shotgun shooting block is the reserve shooter. What is commonly associated with pyro was originally given to the soldier. If you somehow do not know how this weapon works, allow me to flash the tooltip on screen. Got that? No, we should take a more in-depth look at this, as the mini-crits while airborne has another prerequisite of requiring you to have pulled out the weapon in the last 5 seconds, so you cannot just run around with the weapon out, punishing people who rocket jump just because. You'll have to switch to the reserve shooter, which is extremely convenient because of the 20% increased switch to speed, which helps when wanting to use this weapon effectively. And to do so, it is quite simple. Just whatever you do, don't use it with the direct hit. You don't exactly plan on launching people in the air with that weapon, and if you're going for an airborne shot, just direct hit them and get the mini crit and win. And now, easily the best shotgun in the game, the panic attack, which has been changed so many times I don't even know what it is anymore. As of early 2019, this weapon is a much better spot than it was before. However, to the disdain of some users, it has lost the charm of the shotgun it used to be, and is now only a shell of the former glory. This weapon is easily used, of course, in a panic mode. Like all other shotguns, you can use this on a defense situation wherein a rocket launcher wouldn't help. The increased bullets also help with the panic nature of the weapon, and you can fuse them and miss, and still hit. Moving on to something that's still a gun, but now into the gimmicks. The Righteous Bison is a weapon that was bugged, in massive air quotes, for the longest time to be able to penetrate enemies, and thusly do great damage because of this. In Meet Your Match, the Bison met its match by the almighty bug fix with the penetration property. This lasted until Jungle Inferno, where it was mostly reverted back to the original. However, as pointed by Soundsmith's ancient video from around this time, and the TF2 wiki, the damage on the Bison is still not the same, despite being stated to have been reversed back to its original design. Being a weapon that uses the Calmanger's damage properties, sentries will also have a natural resistance against the Bison, and the weapon does not have an alt fire to help disable sentries, so using it for sentry killing is one of the dumbest things you could possibly do. All this with the weapon boils down to a weird, crappy space pistol. Next on the gimmick block is the start of the banners, which could have been a video on its own, comparing the shotguns to them, but I was too lazy to make that work, so I instead built this video. The first banner we will be focusing on is the buff banner. This backpack attached to, strangely enough, a banner, allows the soldier to give a mini crit buff to every single one of his teammates within a 450 unit range, or 8 meters, or 28 feet, or in real measurements, around this distance away. These banners mostly give buffs to your teammates, and thusly you will need teammates who know what they're doing in order to make these work, which is hard to do in pubs and the like. However, in a competitive nature, you will have to call out when you're making a toot noise, and push along with a sap for a spy or something like that. These banners call for cooperation, something that most pub groups do not have, so when using this weapon, ask yourself if you believe it'd be worth it to use a team-wide buff to help a bunch of spies, or would you rather have more survivability by yourself? Speaking of survivability for yourself, the battalion's backup. This banner allows you to soak damage and give a fat middle finger to any critical hits that come your way. That on top of a sentry resistance which allows you to push forward into bases with ease. The passive ability, however, is not as extravagant as many other banners, only giving about plus 20 maximum health to a maximum of 220. Despite this, it still helps when it comes to a slight advantage in similar matchups. Say against an air soldier, while you may not have the shotgun, you still have an extra 20 HP, which could mean an extra rocket the air soldier would have to hit. As stated before, upon tuning this banner, you gain a bunch of resistances, mainly against critical hits, making sniper headshots do barely anything, which is one of the soldier's main weaknesses upon pushing, being headshot from across the map. Moving forward from the backup, we have the Conch, which gives you your own survivability and making people go zoom. Yes, upon tuning this banner, every friendly unit within your radius will get a small speed boost, as well as a small vampire buff, as in about 35% of damage done will return to the damage dealer in health. But that's not all, as you'll gain a plus 4 health a second, baseline anyway, not accounting for critical heals. This, on top of the reduced rage it takes to actually use the banner, being at 480 damage when compared to the other banner's 600, all of this combined makes for my pick for the best banner that the soldier has to offer, at least in my opinion, and when compared with the black box, this makes you a master of health regeneration. Anyway, off of the banners now and onto the one-off parachute, the base jumper, which allows you to, guess what, use a parachute. And honestly, this weapon only has one use for me, and that is pairing it with the airstrike. Using it in another circumstance just kinda seems awful. Of course, the parachute will decrease your fall speed and keep you airborne, which allows the airstrike to shoot incredibly fast. But really, apart from that, I don't see many uses for this item / weapon. Oh, apart from using it as a crutch for a market garden, but that's into a whole nother territory I won't tread onto. Speaking of treading, the man treads, which before I think Jungle Inferno was a pretty crap weapon, and only allowed you to Goomba stomp on enemies depending on your fall speed, and take less damage from other explosions. But thanks to the Inferno update, it allows you to do a whole new level of air strafing, a whole 200% increase to your air control, which sounds insane, is insane, and quite a lot of fun to do when turning around in mid-air, and still have a ton of momentum. This makes market gardens a lot more fun than using the parachute, and allows for some interesting jumps and fake outs. While not being the best secondary, and certainly not the most useful, this, in my opinion, allows for the soldier to have the most fun when playing him, and for a lot of people, that's all you need. The boots for soldier don't end there. Finally rounding out with all the secondaries, we have the gun boots. Arguably the most used soldier secondary, and for good reason. It's good at one thing, and that thing is allowing you to rocket jump more, and who doesn't love that? The gun boat's doing one simple thing, making your blast jumps do 60% less damage to yourself. And that's it. The reduced self-damage allows for flanking to be done easily without murdering yourself, and a whole ton of different things you can do without this, most of which I'll leave up to the user. And finally, that's all the secondaries. If you remember from my scout video, I gave the edge to the gimmicks. For soldier, that's a bit harder to do as there are only 3 shotguns for soldier, and, 7 gimmicks. So I cannot give an edge to one specific area, so I'll leave the debate in the comments for that, asking the question, would you rather take one of the gimmicks into your loadout or one of the shotgun? Thank you for watching.